While majority of the offseason contract extension talk in regards to my Carolina Panthers has centered around the likes of Brian Burns and Shaq Thompson, there's another player on this young flourishing defense that is coming off a career year that is in line for a big payday that nobody seems to be talking about. Well, I'm going to talk about it, and we're going to get into that right after this.
I'm from the foe, you dig?
Welcome to The Way I See It with Jamario Rashad. This is a Carolina Panthers fan channel. Please do me a favor by hitting the like button, and please make sure you subscribe as I am on my road to 1K. Trying to get this channel monetized. Now that that's out of the way, let's go ahead and get to this dog. Now, if you do not know by now, by clicking on the thumbnail and seeing his face all over it, the player that I am speaking about is none other than number 49, Frankie Luvu. Frankie Luvu had himself a career year in year 5 of his young, soon-to-be very successful career. Out of Washington State, he came into this league undrafted, spent his first 4 years in the league with the New York Jets before transitioning over to the Carolina Panthers. And in year 2 or 3 with Carolina Panthers, which was this last year, he absolutely flourished. Now, in what ways? I think in every way. So much so that I believe that he, compared to all of these all-pro selections, has a case as to why he had a better season than them and why he was a potential snub from this prestigious list. Now, I'm going to start first with the All-Pro second team. And now the first thing I want to highlight are the 3 All-Pro second team linebackers that were listed for this past 2022 season were Bobby Wagner of the Rams, Demario Davis of the Saints, as well as C.J. Mosley of the Jets. Bobby Wagner had 140 tackles, 6 sacks, and 10 tackles for loss. Demario Davis had 109 tackles, 6.5 sacks, 10 tackles for loss. C.J. Mosley had 158 tackles, 1 sack, and 5 tackles for loss. Each one of these players played the entirety of the season, that is 17 of 17 games. As you can see on the graphic next to me, Frankie Luvu, in only 15 games played, had 111 tackles, 7 sacks, and what was near a team record, which was the second most in team history, 19 tackles for loss. Now, if you were to project this forward out and give my boy Frankie Luvu the luxury of 17 games per season, before we even do that, let's go back and say, I know that games played are something that absolutely matter when it comes to this context. But what I find to be even more of an indication of how impactful these guys were rather than saying how many games did they play, how many defensive snaps were they able to play. Now, in just 15 games played, Frankie Luvu played nearly 150 less snaps than the next closest person, which was Bobby Wagner. In 15 games played, Frankie Luvu only had 940 snaps, while Bobby Wagner had 1,080, Demario Davis had 1,132, and C.J. Mosley had 1,114, and yet their stats were so similar that it's crazy, and Frankie Luvu wasn't even out there for as much of the game as the rest of these guys were. Now, if you want to give a little more context to this, this seems as though Frankie Luvu is being punished for the fact that our offense found its rhythm with the run game, and we were able to practice ball control down the final stretch of the season, and the defenders and all of the defenders had to expend less energy as they were just on the field a lot less snaps. But Frankie Luvu, in his limited number of snaps with that ball control offense, was still able to put up these stellar stats. Now, to project forward, if Frankie Luvu were to have played 17 games, Frankie Luvu would have had 126 sacks, 126 tackles, 8 sacks, 22 tackles for loss, which would have been the team record. And he only would have played 144 snaps, which would have still been the least on this list, just showing how dominant of a season Frankie Luvu had. He would have broken the record. And for context, as you can see, he had more than double of the next guy listed in this conversation in terms of tackles for loss. His impact on the run game so far outweighed each and every one of these other guys that it was crazy. Frankie Luvu's name was called on a big play multiple times each and every week. Now I'm going to give you all the same comparison, but we're going to move this forward to the first teamers. Now I need you all to see that right there on its terms of the second teamers. Everybody on this list had a similar overall team record, so there isn't much to say in terms of whether there was favoritism shown towards players that were a part of a winning program. Now we're going to move forward to these first team members. Now the first team linebackers were Fred Warner of the 49ers, Roquan Smith of the Baltimore Ravens, and Matt Milano of the Buffalo Bills. Now the first thing I want to point out that's obvious here is Matt Milano was able to make this team while also only playing 15 games, similar to Frankie Luvu. And as we will get into in just a moment, he didn't have anywhere near the year that Frankie Luvu had. So for more context, Fred Warner, 130 tackles, 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss. Roquan Smith, 169 tackles, 4.5 sacks, and 11 tackles for loss. Now, I'm going to just go ahead and say it. Frankie Luvu isn't touching those guys. He isn't. Those guys are absolutely different. But my beef with this list in terms of these top 3 guys was the fact that Matt Milano did not have a better year than Frankie Luvu. Now, Matt Milano, in his 15 games, had 99 tackles, 1.5 sacks, and 12 tackles for loss. If projected forward, again, as we said, Frankie Luvu would have had 126 tackles, 8 sacks, and 22 tackles for loss. That is still more than what Matt Milano would have had if he would have played the entirety of those 17 games. And he would have just, Frankie Luvu would have dwarfed him in every single stat, just showing that Frankie Luvu's stats are comparable to that are considered at the top of the league and at the best at their craft, man. So with that being said, this first team was clearly more so about record, because there is absolutely no way that Frankie Luvu did not have a better year than Matt Milano. This is clearly about overall record. The Panthers didn't make the playoffs, and the trend that you will see with all of these players that did in fact make the first team is that they were teams that had a great record. As you can see here, when we move forward, Frankie Luvu was on the lesser of these 4 considered teams, so I guess that is taken into account. But without a doubt, I can sit here and say with certainty that Frankie Luvu had a better year than both Matt Milano, and damn sure he had a better year than Demario Davis, who made the second team, whose team overall record was the exact same as the Carolina Panthers, but the team finished higher in the division, so that has to be taken into account for something. So there's absolutely no reason why Demario Davis was selected to this over Frankie Luvu. And Frankie Luvu wasn't even selected as a Pro Bowler. He was just pretty much omitted from any award recognition or just any pats on the back in general in this season whatsoever, man. With that being said, man, I want to get into what is Frankie Luvu's contract, man. So in this final year that he's playing with his Carolina Panthers in 2023, this upcoming year. After that, he will be a unrestricted free agent. He will be making right around $4 million this year. Now, to give you all a little more context, you all saw just how dominant his production was in comparison to those that the league has recognized as the absolute best. Now, in terms of how he's being compensated in comparison to those guys, according to SpotRack, he is the 43rd highest paid linebacker in the entire league, and he is the 24th if you want to whittle that down, 24th highest overall if you wanted to just whittle that down two outside linebackers. Now, Frankie Luvu, as I mentioned earlier, was undrafted out of Washington State, and he is coming off a career year with what is projected to be, or what is on paper, an even more impactful defensive staff coming in that is going to put him in position to even exceed the career year that he had last year. So with that being said, man, he is going to be looking for a big payday. And with him being undrafted, as you can see in this graphic right here, at the conclusion of this upcoming year, after playing a total of playing since 2018, which is over 5 years in the league, he would have only made around $11 million when you have other guys getting that every single year on an annual basis. So the people are that will think that, oh, he's going to be sentimental, hometown discount, all this, that, and the third. The defensive staff that Frankie Luvu actually had this breakout year under, which I assume put him on the radar of these other teams, those guys are not here. So whatever loyalty that you think he may have, that would have been to Al Holcomb, no matter how people feel about him, to Steve Wilkes, no matter how people feel about him, to that entire defensive staff that he broke out under this year. Under Ejiro Evero and all the people that he brings out this year, it'll be a one and done year. He's already proven to himself that he can have this production without the need for this super staff. So he deserves to go get his money. And if the Carolina Panthers aren't going to offer him a relatively earned contract, because I do believe that he's going to be a hot commodity on the open market, then he should be free to go. But I do not think the Carolina Panthers should let that happen. Now, to give you all a little more context, in 2019, Shaq Thompson had 109 tackles, 3 sacks, and 11 tackles for loss in just 15 games, similar to what we saw out of Frankie Luvu. This was Shaq Thompson's 5th year. He was playing on his 5th year option, and after this, he received a 4-year extension worth $54 million. At the time of signing, that made Shaq Thompson the 14th highest paid linebacker in the entire NFL. Now, as of right now, there is much conversation about whether or not Shaq will be extended, so his cap hit is softened. But with that being said, if the Carolina Panthers were able to offer this up for the production that they got out of a young Shaq Thompson, Frankie Luvu has exceeded that in this past year, and there's no reason to expect that he wouldn't do that in this upcoming year, in this 3-4 system that is like it just suits him like a tailored polo, man. Like it's just perfect. He is gonna wear it, and he is gonna wear the opposing team out, man. So Frankie Luvu is going to demand a big contract in this offseason, and I believe the Carolina Panthers should go ahead, and before they even allow this season to play out, they need to extend him right now. Do not allow him to have a even better year where he can go out and command even more money. We need to go out, put the money on the table, go ahead and offer him the security that he's probably been looking for the entirety of his life. Make sure that Frankie Luvu is tied to this team and is not another example of Hassan Reddick, another example of Stephon Gilmore, and just another example of what could have been. We need to lock him in, extend him before his price goes up, and we have to make even bigger decisions, man. But with that being said, that is all I have to say on this topic, man. The Carolina Panthers need to go ahead and extend Frankie Luvu before he hits the open market and other teams get to bid on him. Go ahead and offer him the money now and give him to us in the future, man. With that being said, you all leave your comments down below. What do you all think about this topic? Do you think we should go ahead and extend Frankie Luvu right now so that he does not have another career year, hit the open market, and we potentially have to bid on our own guy because we did not draft him? He is unrestricted all of these various reasons. Whatever you all think, leave your comments down below, and I'll get back to you. And with that being said, I'm Jamario Rashad. This is the way I see it, and I'm out. Peace.